Homemade pastrami from corn Silverside. It's easier than you think. In this video I'll show you my method on how to make it. We'll start off with one of the cheapest cuts you can find from the supermarket, corn Silverside. This one was about $8 a kilo. First step is to soak the Silverside for 24 hours, changing the water about halfway through. This helps remove the excess brine from the meat. The most important part of this cook is the spice mix. My pastrami rub is made up of pepper, pepperberry, coriander seeds, smoked paprika, brown sugar, garlic powder, mustard powder and onion powder. These amounts do make quite a lot, so feel free to halve it if you need. After your 24 hours, drain the meat and pat it down with some paper towel to dry it off. Then we want to trim all the excess fat and silver skin off the meat, but don't discard it. We want to render that fat down to use when we wrap the pastrami. When you're trimming, make sure you tidy up all the edges and corners, as these can dry out during the cook. Once you're happy with the trim, you'll need a binder to help the rub stick to the meat. Here I'm using a fermented black garlic mustard from the 5th season. It's my go-to binder. I'll stick a link in. Make sure you get a good coating of the binder all over the meat. The next step is to cover the meat with the pastrami rub, making sure that you get a good coating across the entire piece of meat. You're better off patting it in to help it stick to the binder rather than rubbing it. I'm using a Masterbuilt Gravity for this cook, but any smoker would do the trick. I've set the smoker to 120 degrees and I'm using Tassie oak chunks soaked in red wine for smoke flavour. You'll see that I've also put the fat offcuts into the smoker so that they can render. Once you're happy with the bark, it's time to pull them out of the smoker to wrap. I tend to wrap in foil, but you can also use butcher's paper, and you can see that I'm also including some of the rendered fat within the foil. You can then put them back in the smoker until they come to temperature. I'm looking to slice these pastramis pretty thinly, so I'm looking for an internal temperature of between 80 and 85 degrees Celsius, but you can let them go a bit higher into the 90s. All up, this cook took about 8 hours at 120 degrees. You want to then let them steam off for a bit to stop the cooking process before letting them rest for a couple of hours. Once they've rested, it's time to put them in the fridge overnight so they can cool completely before slicing. Slice by hand or with an electric slicer. We picked this one up from Aldi for 69 bucks and it's been pretty good. We cooked about 3 kilos worth of pastrami in this cook, so it's worth back sealing and putting in the freezer. It freezes very well. If you enjoyed this how-to video, I'd appreciate a subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.